Okay.
All right. Okay. Next up, we have some planning and zoning activity to discuss. I believe Tony will brief, or Ray, however y'all want to do that.
Yeah.
You guys might think of leaving that by the time you get to pull off.
Feel free to stand or sit down.
Okay, I'll stand, that's okay. We have had two, well, first of all, good evening. It's been a while since I spoke to some of you also. It's nice to see you again. We've had two planning and zoning commission meetings in the last month. Those were held from the 12th and 19th of December. And what I want to do tonight is briefly go over the actions that will go to the city council at such time as there's a quorum. And what you have in front of you are those items that will go that have been reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission and some recommendation action has taken place. So I'll start with the first case, which is 11-54. This is a case where the property owners, Mr. and Mrs. Na, want to open up a restaurant. The property sits off Clear Creek Road, off of Barron Camp, and I've got maps in the back that show you exactly where it is in relation to Clear Creek Road. But it's about an acre. They want to rezone from B5 to RC1 because she wants to sell beer, wine, or what have you with her restaurant. This went to the Planning and Zoning Commission on December the 12th, I believe. Their recommendation was to approve it by a vote of 7-1. So that's an item that will be coming to the council at a future date. We didn't get any protests off of this case. If there are no questions, I'll move forward. That's okay. The next case, 11-55, is another zoning case. The Will D Company LLC operates just drew a blank on the restaurant name. Billy Bob's, excuse me. Billy Bob's Restaurant is the one off of Stan Sleater that's accessed through a passage easement. It's an existing restaurant, as you all know. They want to serve in conjunction with the restaurant, and that requires the rezone from actually manufacturing to RC1. The recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission is to approve the rezone. That was by unanimous vote. Again, this is an item that didn't have any protests involved with it, and it's met all the setback requirements, just like the NA case, as far as being away from any church or school or hospital. I'd like to answer questions you have about this particular case, if there are any. Yes, sir.
Well, you said beer specifically, but there isn't a distinction. There's nothing that distinguishes beer and wine sales. It's all the same.
Right. Under the zoning, there isn't. So an applicant might come in and say, "Well, we want to do beer." It basically allows beer, wine, or mixed beverages. The TDC permit will kind of hone in on what they can do, but as far as our zoning, we left it pretty vague. The next case, 11-56, is a rezone for a prospective package store that will be in a shopping center, or I should say strip center, that's going to be located at the corner of Saddle Ridge and Stan Sleater. In your packet, I've included basically a survey that was done by Mitchell & Associates that shows an 1,800 square foot area. Now the second, or another page that shows a site layout of how the strip center will look. And of course our complementary zoning maps. Basically the package store will be about 1,800 square feet. The property owner only wants to zone that much for the B3A use, and the rest will stay at the current B3 zoning. We didn't get any protests from these surrounding property owners. When we took it to the Planning and Zoning Commission, they recommended approval of the request limited to the 1,800 square feet. When it comes into the city, we'll make sure it meets the facade standards that we have for the B3A zoning, if the council so approves it. I would suspect that the owner would do it that way anyway. It's not really onerous. We ask for basically brick or stucco or things of that nature, and most of these centers are going in looking just like that. So that will be another case that involves alcohol use in conjunction with the principal use. We have a comprehensive plan future land use map amendment. Some time ago, back in November, I believe you all approved the annexation of 153 acres on the west side of Bunny Trail. It's for what is basically going to be Bunny Trail Estates. When it was annexed into the city and subsequently rezoned from Ag to R1, at that time the staff did not bring a future land use map amendment to you. Part of the reason was because we didn't know what the character of the development would be in the area. We've since got a plat in, and it basically is a subdivision that will, in our opinion, be something that will be considered general residential because of the size of the lots and setbacks and things of that nature. So future land use map amendment is to take it out of a rural designation and put it into a general residential designation. The residential designation is pretty much the designation of all the subdivisions that you have in that area. Bridgewood is one of the largest subdivisions. Purser Crossing will be another. These are basically single-family, residentially zoned property that all lots that are probably anywhere from 7,500 to maybe up to 9,000 square feet. So this went to the P&Z. They recommend approval by a vote of 7-0. The applicant's already secured the R1 zoning. We want to make sure the comp plan matches what is going to be on the ground. Is essentially what we're doing here. So answer the questions you have. I did provide a map that shows the area in green. There's a lot of areas in green in the city. Most of those are areas that were either undeveloped or left outside the city limits. The next case involves a future land use map amendment that was necessitated by a zoning request. We got a zoning request in to take a property from a residential zoning to a commercial. And we looked at the comprehensive plan. We saw that the lot was in a general residential area, which makes sense since it's zoned R1. This property is located at 1101 North WSM Drive. It's just north of where the Rancier Sevco will go in at Rancier and W.S. Young. The property is currently a duplex, backs up to a business daycare, and heading north the rest of the property along that block is R1. At the staff level, we didn't feel comfortable taking this one little small lot out of its designation of general residential. We didn't think there needed to be any more general residential because you had that whole corridor with general residential land use. So we thought, well, there's plenty of opportunity. We don't see any true benefit to getting just this one sliver of property. When the case went to the Planning and Zoning Commission, their recommendation was for disapproval by a vote of 7-1. They thought that, much like staff, there was plenty of opportunity already present in the area for general commercial use. But there's also some flexibility in a comprehensive plan where you can have some rezones occur and leave the land use designation as general residential, but you got to rezone to something low scale like B1 or B2. So that led into the actual zoning case from R1 to B5, and when we talked to individuals, they said they wanted to put in a leasing office, and they said B2 will work fine for them. So the recommendation is basically no change to the future land use map in for a B2 zoning for the same property. The property owner's agent said that was fine. They had no problem. They could use the property and convert it to an office use. So the council will get a two-part case, one with future land use map amendment and one with the change to the zoning. And at that point in time, you all can make a decision if you're going to approve the change in zoning and the change in the future land use map. Those were all the cases that went forward that will come to you. There were 3 plats that were approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they are in the process of being counted down to that automatic approval status. One was one was Central Texas Medical, located off of Clear Creek. Dr. Omar Hamzi bought about, he's platting about 6 acres into 2 lots. He's going to put a medical office on one lot, and the other lot right now, he doesn't have any plans for it. He owns about another 9 acres that he's leaving out and not platting right now. And that went to the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval. They approved it. And it should hopefully continue to build out some more medical uses in that corridor we see at Watercrest and Clear Creek, which would be good for the city. The other is a property located off of Watercrest that belongs to Mrs. Inhofe Halliburton. This property has gone through several different configurations. She's platted it, she's replatted it, now she's replatting it again into 2 lots. She's going to sell it, so she's just basically trying to get the lots separated. That went to the Planning and Zoning Commission and was approved. And the other case was Bunny Trail Estates, which is 200 plus lots in that area we just talked about for the future land use map amendment. And that item went to the Planning and Zoning Commission and was discussed and recommended for approval. In the case of all these subdivisions, the way it works is we got 30 days to get it from staff to P&Z. P&Z then has basically has to make a determination, and then it goes to council. In the absence of a council or a quorum, it then is approved after 30 days after the P&Z makes the recommendation. So these are only for those subdivisions that aren't approved by staff. So these big residential subdivisions will be approved after the clock gets finished ticking down. So it's probably about 60 days from the time that we actually get it. The other ones will approve in-house. Those are the minor plats and amending plats, so they won't be impacted at all by not having a city council quorum. So what you'll probably get is mostly zoning cases, and most of those zoning cases will be alcohol related from the way it looks. We might get, as Mr. Crutchfield talked about, some of these big projects will have to be rezoned. And so you probably get a flurry of activity on things like La Cascada and the Aegis site, and the staff has been meeting with these people and talking to them, so we're trying to get ahead of the curve here, and you guys have to tell us how you want to stagger these, because obviously you can't do them all at once. So that's it for what's going to P&Z the last 2 times. We've not worked on any ordinances, but we're going to get started again under Dr. Chanab on the UOD and the signs, and we'll bring those to you for review once the P&Z gets done with that.
I have a question. The Scott and White facility that's going out to Rosewood, is that in Killeen or is it in Arthur Heights?
It's in our city limits, and we have been in discussion with the applicants. It's already platted, and the zoning's already in place.
Well, I'm greedy. I want to know if it's in Killeen or not.
Yeah, it's right against the border.
Okay.
It's in Killeen.
Okay, that's what I'm. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Public Works project briefings. I believe first up is Steve Connie with Water and Sewer. Is that right, Steve? Richard? Is that,
yes, sir. What I thought I would do today. Sorry. No, little box. Oh, what I thought I was doing today is, instead of going through the projects that you have in your packet and talking about each of those CIP projects, is I would go through and talk a little bit about our water distribution system and our sewer collection system. Because we're always talking about these different projects and where they are and stuff like that. I think it's important to be able to kind of understand how it all works together. And it's basically very simple. I wish I could have this blown up even more, but I can't do that unless if we want to talk about a certain area, I can zoom in and we can talk about that. But basically, this is our water distribution system. The water distribution system is made up of about 617 miles of water mains. Within that system of mains, you have around 8,800 valves and 4,300 fire hydrants. We have basically 6 different pump stations. And you'll see on the map there's some different shades. There's the big green is what's called a lower pressure plane. This blue is a middle pressure plane. This kind of pink is the upper pressure plane, this is the airport pressure plane, and this is the Douglas Mountain pressure plane. And what that's all about is basically those different areas are at different elevations, ground elevation. And so you've got to be able to have a minimum static pressure at every home of 35 psi. So to do that, some of the pressure planes have to be a little bit higher pressure. Basically, we have the water sitting at a higher elevation. So that again, when you open your tap, that water flows out and it flows out well. Basically, again, we have 6 pump stations that pump the water to these different pressure planes. 4 of those pump stations is where we take water. One of them is pump station number 5, which is right up there. Pump station 6 is there. That's another place we take water. Pump station 3, a major one in the lower pressure plane, we take water. And pump station 2, which is right here, we take water. And when I say we take water, we take it from Bell County WCID number 1. Our contracted amount, max day for Bell County is 32 million gallons a day. In 2011, our max day that we saw was right at 25 million gallons. During the winter months right now, we're running around 10 million gallons a day. So again, it's, like today, we pumped 10 million gallons. That we basically bought that water from Bell County WCID number 1. We took it at those pump stations, and then we pumped it throughout the system. And the main thing that we pumped it to are what we call elevated storage tanks. In our elevated storage tanks, we have a total capacity of around 9 to 10 million gallons. And again, the elevated storage tanks are the ones that you see, these big tanks that are up in the air. And that's, again, keeping the water at an elevation where it keeps enough pressure on the system so that, again, when you open the faucet, the water comes out. As far as the other thing that we have that are big kind of facilities are what we call ground storage tanks. And ground storage tanks are normally at your pump stations. And so, like at pump station number 6, which is over here, we have 3 5 million gallon ground storage tanks. So the water comes from Bell County, they put it into the storage tanks, then we pull it out of those storage tanks and then pump it throughout the system. Again, that's kind of our water distribution system. Probably if we had to build this thing today, it would probably cost somewhere around $350 million of an asset value that we have, again, that's sitting under the ground. And that, again, is just the water distribution system. Again, when we look at electric bills, most of the time people don't realize, but the highest user of electricity for any municipality usually is your water and sewer departments. And it's the cost for electricity to move those large amounts of water around. Okay? That's kind of water basics. On the sewer side, and it's the same map, but the big thing about sewer is most of it's not under pressure, so we don't want to spend that electricity to have to add energy to the wastewater. So we use the energy God gave us, and that is gravity. And basically sewer, it's all about flowing it downhill. And so we try to design everything so that it's flowing downhill as much as possible, so we don't have to have what we call lift stations that then add energy to the wastewater to be able to pump it up to a higher elevation. As far as in our sewer system, we have about 522 miles of mains. And again, on the sewer side, kind of like the water side as well, the city owns the mains, but you as a resident, this is myself, in the city of Killeen, I own the pipe that goes from my house to the main. Even if that main is on the other side of the road, I actually own that pipe that's underneath the road to get to that main. Sometimes that can cause problems. But if we were to add, again, all of the service pipe with the total mains that the city owns, that would be another about 334 miles. Again, as far as the sewer mains, it's enough to get you from here to Atlanta if you were to put it all together. So a lot of pipe that's underground. Within that, we have about 6,800 manholes. We talked about manholes the last time we were together. And those are basically about every 500 feet, or if there's any change of grades or change of directions, it's just a place where that change takes place. Within water pipe, you have a bend. You have a 90-degree angle or something like that. For sewer, on the gravity side, you have to use a manhole to do that. As far as lift stations, we're not in a perfect system yet, and we do have to have some places where sewer flows down to, and we have to pump it up the hill. We have 14 of those lift stations. One of my main goals as I've been here is trying to get rid of more and more of those. They're kind of a maintenance nightmare. Again, they cost money because of the electricity. And we're slowly getting rid of some of those by doing some redesigns, some re-looking at some things. But we still have 14 of those. And those lift stations are kind of spread throughout the city. There's a real small one over there. It's lift station number 9. We have like lift station 2, lift station 8. The big kind of ones are right here, which is lift station 1 and lift station 6. And they are right next to, right there is Bell County WCID number 1's kind of central plant. We call it the North Plant. Actually, they have 2 plants there. Those 2 plants together can handle a capacity of 24 million gallons per day. That plant also sees flow that comes out of Fort Hood right in this area and comes down into that plant. On an average day, we send about 7 million gallons to that plant. Fort Hood sends about 2.5 million. Some of the other lift stations down in this area, again, this is kind of on the south side where we're lifting the sewer up into these bluer lines, which are your main transmission mains, or interceptors. And we have a couple of them down here on the south side as well. The flow of sewer, as far as on the gravity side, since the south plant was built by Bell County, which is right here, which can handle a capacity of about 6 million gallons a day, it allowed us to get rid of a lot of lift stations that were down in this area, that southeast area, because we were able to, instead of having to pump all that stuff up north, we were able to let gravity flow down to the south. Again, that station has a capacity of about 6 million gallons. So you would think, well, we have about 30 million gallons capacity. Well, that is true, but one of the big troubles within a sewer system is what we call I&I, which is inflow and infiltration. And that's basically groundwater, when it rains a lot, that's flowing into the system through many different means, as well as infiltration, which is groundwater that you may have that's in the ground, that's coming into pipe through cracks in the pipe or breaks, all kinds of things like that. You can see our average, again, of sewer, which is average is somewhere around 10 million gallons a day. You can see it go up 3 to 4 times if we have a major rain event. Back in 2007, in the floods of 2007, our highest month that we ever saw as far as the total amount of sewage that went to the plants, that again is treated by Bell County WCID number 1, was right at 695 million gallons. Again, a normal month for me is 300 million gallons. So, over 2 to 3 times that, and on a daily basis it can go even much higher than that. So one of the big things that we've been working on a lot within our system, in a large system, is trying to work on areas where we can get rid of some of that I&I. It causes problems in that you have to pay for the treatment of that, which is just groundwater. But it also causes for problems of, again, electricity, where you're having to, lift stations be able to lift it up, as well as capacity issues, maintenance problems, a lot of problems. So we've had a pretty extensive program in the last 3 to 4 years, especially, I know in the time that I've been here, of, again, trying to find the biggest problems. And now we're slowly moving towards fixing those problems. I mentioned last time that we were moving into an agreement with the TCEQ, a 10-year agreement, to be able to find and fix those problems and minimize what we call as SSOs, which are sanitary sewer overflows, which is when it gets out of the system where we don't want it to go. I think that's basically it as far as, and again, I mentioned to you last time that this system, if it had to be rebuilt, was probably around $280 million. So we have a lot of money underground. And I mentioned to you last time, we never hear anything unless there's problems. But it's incredible amount of asset that is underground that if we don't take care of it, just as we don't take care of your own car or whatever you may have as an asset, if you don't take care of it, you don't maintain it, it's going to come back and bite you. So that's what you'll see a lot of in the coming years, is looking at ways to better rehab our system so that it will last us another 7,500 years, as some of the system was put in 7,500 years ago. If you have any questions on that, I did, if you would like.
I have a question. A couple of questions.
Okay.
Who owns Belton Lake?
The ownership of our, in a sense, the water that is there for us, the raw water, is actually owned by Bell County WCID #1.
Okay. Stillhouse.
Yes.
Do we own any water in Stillhouse, or we only own water in Bell County?
Right now, at this
Belton.
time, it's just Belton. We've talked about possibly trying to be able to move over 10 million gallons of treated water capacity over to Stillhouse.
Okay.
Because on the water side, and this kind of brings up this issue. One of the things is most, when I talked about the take points, you may have noticed as I moved around real quickly, all of our take points are on the north side of town. So we have to move that water from the north to the south. So one of the main goals for the future is, and one of the things that you guys will have to be making decisions on, is ways to get us more water to the south. So we don't have to move it so far. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Carter.
So that won't necessarily be new water. That'll be 10 million gallons from our 32 million gallon allocation moved to Stillhouse. So that we pump that 10 million, we can have efficiency moving from Lake Aid, from Belton to Stillhouse. But then we can, you'd be more efficient getting that water to the southern part of town. So our number of gallons that we have rights to doesn't get bigger. It just stays at 32.
That's correct. And again, that's treated water capacity. So that's what we can, in a sense, buy each day. That's a maximum amount that we can buy. Now, we also have a raw water capacity, and that's in an acre-foot kind of volume, in a sense. And again, that's just, nothing is increasing, it's just moving from one way to the other. Because again, we have a contract with Bell County WCID #1. There would have to be changes and adjustments to that contract to be able to work on being able to take more. Part of the problem too is right now the plant Bell County has, Belton, it has a max day treatment capacity of 90 million gallons. So, and it's really not economically feasible for them to be able to get more out of that plant